Hi, my name is Bill Kennecke. I retired from Murray State University in 2012. I have 45 plus years of experience in education. I've been a high school principal. Matter of fact, I was a principal at the age of 23 in Illinois. And then later on, I became a superintendent at the age of 34. I've had several principalships and several superintendent positions, all in Illinois, and I've taught at 3 different universities, the last one being Murray State. One of the things that I've noticed, in addition to students not doing well in grammar, punctuation, is that many students either do not know how to study or are lazy and they don't want to study because it's a lot of work. However, there are some ways that you can reduce that work and study smarter rather than harder. And this is the cover of my book that's going to be coming out in hopefully March. It'll be an ebook and it'll also be a print book. I'm going to get both done at the same time. Ingram Spark is my publisher, and they offer a package where you can get the ebook done and the print book done and upload the same day. However, the print book is PDF file and the ebook is a EPUB file. So you can't have the same file, and they're not formatted exactly the same. But the same person is going to format both my ebook and my print book on Study Smarter, Not Harder, over 77 ways to improve your study skills in just a few minutes a day. Okay, so I found some of these, and some of these are mine, but I decided that I would do a top 10 suggestions of how to study. Some of you may be old enough to remember David Letterman, The Tonight Show. He was on for a number of years, and every night he had a top 10 list, and he had them in order of the most important and that kind of stuff. These are not in any particular order. They're just 10 ideas that I will have in my book, and they'll be in more depth in the book, and they'll be in some other sections that are not in these top 10. One of the things in my book that I'm proud of and pleased with is that I have about 50 people who have submitted tips and suggestions as to how they studied smarter, not harder, and became successful in their chosen careers. Some of these people are Murray State teachers. Some of them are from places where I have served as superintendent and other universities. It's a cross-section of people who are medical doctors, teachers, authors, students, CPA, who else? A couple of lawyers, and a couple other people, but there's about 50 people that have responded, and some of them will be in here, but most of them will not be in here. So, starting out, number 1 on my topic is space out your time. Many people believe that in order to do something, you have to study hours and hours. That is not good for a lot of reasons. It's been proven by research that you tend to remember the first thing you study and the last thing you study. So if you study 6 hours, you remember 2 things. All that time in between, you don't remember. But if you study in 20 or 30 or even 40-minute segments, I usually use 30, you tend to remember the first thing at the first of the 30 minutes and the last thing at the 30 minutes. And you keep doing that, you have a whole lot more things you remember. Now, after the 30 minutes, you should take a 5-minute break and get something to drink or walk around or exercise, and then go back and study 30 more minutes. However, do not study 8 hours in a row. My suggestion is to study each session no more than about 3 hours. And you do that over a long period of time. You don't study 8, 10 hours the night before the test. You can, some people do that. So, 30 minutes, 5-minute break, maximum 2-3 hours a day or night. The second one is practice, practice, and more practice. Now, there's a saying that practice makes perfect. However, if you're practicing the wrong way and you're using the wrong information, that's not going to help any. You know, practice does make perfect, but you got to practice correctly. So, musicians, athletes, and so forth, practice smarter and not harder. One of the kids I played basketball against in high school was Bobby Warren, and he ended up playing in the ABA with Dr. J and some other people. And actually, I outscored Bobby in the games I played against him, but he ended up on Vanderbilt playing, and he ended up being an all-star in the American Basketball Association. Bobby Warren ran 100 laps every day, whether he was in practice or not. Luckily, his dad had a key to school, I think he was ag teacher or something. And so he would go over there after practice, and when no one was around, he'd run 100 laps. He also shot 100 free throws every day. Plus, he did all the other things. Now, how do you think he did? He did very, very well. Musicians, I'm reminded of a story that I heard where this concert pianist was playing just so well and without any music, just from memory, and just amazing. And this kid went up to him and said, I would give anything if I could play like you. And the concert pianist said, well, would you practice 8 hours a day, 7 days a week for 15 years? The kid said, well, no. He said, that's what it takes to get to be that good. You had to practice, and you had to do it consistently. So, if you're an athlete or you're just a person, practice will help you, but you have to practice the right things. I had a college organic chemistry teacher at Murray State. I won't tell you his name, but he studied 2 hours for every hour he taught class. It was amazing. He had a PhD in organic chemistry, and he knew chemistry forwards and backwards, but yet he studied 2 hours for every hour he taught. I never did that. I was lucky if I studied 15 minutes for every hour, but he did that consistently through his career. Another friend of mine is a writer, and he started out writing when he was fairly young. He's written something like 50 books and hundreds of articles. Matter of fact, he has articles on how to become a writer. He's that good at writing. He told me one day that when he first started writing, that he revised his draft copy 10 times. He said, you'd be amazed how much better it sounds after 10 times. I said, you still do that? You've written 50 books? He said, no. I said, I only revised it 3 times now. He also has other people edit his work because it is almost impossible to edit your own work. You would think that'd be easy to do, but it's not, because you tend to read things incorrectly. You read something and it's not the same as you think it is, and you miss it. You need a fresh set of eyes to do that. And everyone I know that's a successful author have an editor that is worth their weight or his weight in gold, because they catch these mistakes that when you read it, you don't catch it for some reason. So you got to have other people edit your work. Now, the next thing, item 3, is don't just reread books and your notes. There's a technique that's in the book that explains how you read a chapter. And I won't go into it in a lot of detail here because I don't have time, but it's in the book, and it has to do with you read the chapter this way. You look and see if there's a summary at the end of the chapter. You read that first. You go back to the first, and you look at anything that's in bold print, anything that's italics, anything that starts a section, the first sentence in a paragraph, and you read through it, skim through it. You don't read every word. You just hit the high points. And then if there's examples of questions at the end of the book, you want to be sure and do those questions, because you know most teachers are going to use those same type of questions on tests. Now, you can sit down and read the chapter word for word, but most people don't have that much time, and you don't need that much time. You're only looking for the important points in the chapter. But you always do that before the teacher lectures on it, so you're prepared. You know what's coming up, and if you have a problem, then you can ask the instructor. So only study the concepts and information you don't know. A friend of mine was on an airplane one time, and this guy was act like he's playing an instrument, but he didn't have an instrument. And my buddy asked him, said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm practicing. I'm in the harmonic orchestra." And he said, "I'm practicing." And he said, "Well, where's your instrument?" He said, "I'm doing it in my head." he said, "I do that every time before I do anything. I practice it before I do it, and I do it in my mental." He said, "I don't actually practice that much, but I'm always thinking, and I'm practicing things." So the fourth thing is very important. Test yourself. As I said before, I use flashcards or note cards for everything. They do not work well for some subjects, though. Some subjects, flashcards are not the preferred way to study, but a lot of subjects they are, especially if you have to memorize terms and stuff. They're great for that because you can put the term on one side and put the definition on the other side. However, do not write the exact definition on the other side. Put that definition in your own words. People say, why would you do that? Well, you're more apt to remember things when you put them in your own words. And you have to look at the technique and study it to put it in your own words, so you're learning by putting it in your own words. And then create your own test. Now, when I was in college, I was in a fraternity, and I guess this is not a secret, but we had a test file that we had in the fraternity. And when we had a teacher, sometimes, I don't know how they got these test copies, but I didn't ask, but they had copies of some of the professors. So we were free to look at those, and some professors, I think, tend to use the same test over and over again. I tried not to do that, but usually the same information is tested, it's just asked in a different way. Many professors now use a test bank. They don't even make up the questions. They have a test bank, and they push a button and it says every third question, and it's printed out for you, so you don't have to even think about that. I never did use test banks too much, but I just never did, but I know a lot of professors that do. But you can create your own practice test. You can look in your book and see if there's questions there. You can look at your notes that you take. And by the way, I recommend Cornell notes. There are a lot of different note applications that you can use, but Cornell notes were invented many years ago at Cornell University, and they're very, very good. And I use that method, and I take the Cornell notes and put them on note cards. But you can create your own practice test. Another thing you can do, you can get together with fellow students, classmates, and teach each other. Having been a teacher for 40-some years, I can tell you that most of the time you don't want to get in front of a class unless you know the material, right? You look kind of, I don't know what the good term for that is, but you just don't want to stand up in front of kids and try to teach them things if you don't know the material yourself. So by teaching other people, you actually learn the material. And you can teach each other. You can have groups. You can have just two people, a buddy system, but you can test each other and you can actually help each other learn the material. And this is called retrieval practice. 5, mistakes are okay as long as you learn from your mistakes. But you got to learn from them. You can't continue making the same mistake over and over again. Then you don't learn anything. So check your incorrect answers, determine why you got it wrong, look for sample problems in your textbook and notes or the internet. Some teachers post their stuff on the internet, and you can look on the internet and see sample test questions and so forth. So avail yourself of that. Or if you still have problems, make an appointment with your professor. Now, I taught for, 11 years, 11 years the last time I taught college. And I think I probably can count on one hand the number of times I had a student come in and ask for help. Like 5 times in 11 years. That's hard to believe, but I guess they knew the answers. Well, they didn't know all the answers, but they, for some reason, would not come in during office hours. And that's what they're getting paid to do. If you succeed, they succeed, and most teachers are not there to make it hard on you. They want you to learn. And you can look on the internet for sample problems if you want. Okay, mix up your self-testing. Drill yourself on different concepts, and you can mix multiple subjects and topics to improve learning. You can actually learn from one topic that helps in another topic. Chemistry and math, for example, go together really well. So you can study your math and your chemistry, and they can help you learn the techniques and the material in both of them. Another thing that people take advantage of that is pictures and graphs. There's no saying that a picture is worth 10,000 words. I don't know if that's true or not, because some people are not visual learners, but I happen to be both an auditory learner and a visual learner, and pictures and graphs can be very beneficial, and people do use those on tests. And any kind of class handouts that you get in class, don't throw them away. There's a reason that they give you handouts. It's got important information on it. Okay, number 8, find examples of important concepts in the chapter. A lot of times they're underlined, a lot of times they're bold, sometimes in italics, and learn how to use these concepts and put them in your own words so that you remember them. Use the internet, use other books on the same topic to see different explanations. Don't forget to ask your teacher to explain concepts. Number 9, make a plan and stick to it. Most people, and I'm guilty of this too, we make plans and we don't follow the plan. Most people that are successful follow their plan consistently, and that's one of the reasons they do well, is because they stick to their plan and they do it all the time and consistently, and they do it many times. You can also use a paper calendar, or you can use your cell phone. It has a calendar in it. I like paper calendars because I like to feel things and see things. You can do that on the internet. You can also do it on a phone. And the way phones are now, they're almost like a computer themselves. They're so expensive. But you can use that and write down important topics and dates and so forth. And also the syllabus is another thing I didn't put on here, but you should look at your syllabus. And syllabus is one of the most important things you can do, because it's like a contract, and it tells you when things are due. It gives you important information, and many students, I think now they just put them on the internet. They don't even pass them out, I think, in class now. And if a kid wants to, or a student, they can download it and print it out, but you don't have to, because most teachers don't even pass them out. They just put them on the internet. And you need to work about 30 minutes at night. You don't need to study more than 3 hours. Cramming the night before the test seldom works. It does give you short-term memory, but it basically is a bad habit to get into. Start 5 to 10 days before the test. Number 10, dig deeper. Ask lots of why questions. Why are things a certain way? Why do they matter? Ask lots of how questions. How did they occur? This process is called elaboration. And elaboration is a process of developing or presenting a theory, a policy, or a system in more detail pertaining to what has already been said. In conclusion, studying smarter is something that you can do. If you are happy with the grades you're making and you're happy with the techniques you use, do not change. It's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. If you're happy with it, it's working, keep it. Now, if it's not working, I would recommend you try some of these techniques. Pick ones that you think will work and try it for a few days. And if they don't work, scrap it. If they work better, you can even modify them to fit your own needs. You may figure out a better way to use them flashcards. I love flashcards. Some people hate flashcards. But they're portable, they're cheap, and they work. They don't work for every subject, though. So I urge you to buy this book or buy the ebook and to try some of these proven strategies that do work for a lot of people. Maybe they'll work for you, and you can reach your full potential with working just a short amount of time. And do not study things you already learned. Use that time to study things you don't know.